Welcome to the latest special edition of Last Bowl Boxing. Joined today by Brighton's own Sean. How you doing, Sean?
Very well, mate. Yourself?
Yeah, all good, thank you, all good. So we're going to cover the Dillian Whyte versus Moses Itauma fight coming up in Saudi Arabia, and then we'll touch on some of the undercard because I think it's a half decent card. I don't know what you think.
It's a really good card. It's not really got a promoter though, is it? It's one of these weird video game slash card things, isn't it, that they
Yeah.
do?
Eddie and Dan on Box Records being the promoter, so I'm sure he'll take credit for that one, Mr. Ern. So
Yeah.
let's start with Ergovic versus Adelaide then, because that caught me off guard because I thought it was a given that he was going to jump in with Jamie TKV, but obviously not. Quite an intriguing fight this because Ergovic, you could argue, is on a sticky wicket, right? He can't keep losing fights if he wants to be at the high echelons of box heavyweight division. So give me your thoughts.
Yeah, like you said, I was taken a bit surprised when that fight was announced on the card. I think it's a big step up for Adelaide, although he's been at the British level, hovering there or thereabouts. I think, it's going to be a tough fight for him. Hard to pick a winner for me, really, because you never know what David Adelaide's going to turn up, as we saw against Fabio Wardley. Then in the TKV fight, he wasn't particularly great, I didn't think. So, yeah, it's a bit of a tricky one for me to predict, but I think Hergovich will just about beat him due to his experience.
Yeah, I was at the Adelaide Jamie TKV fight, if you'd say, and I wasn't overly impressed with either of them. To be honest, it probably stumped the place out a little bit, right? So I'm not. I know they needed a rematch because of the controversy about the who won and how he won, but I agree with you. That's some step up to go from Jamie TKV, where he wasn't very convincing, to start jumping in with Philip Ergovic, who's obviously got Olympic pedigree. And is he motivated, Ergovic, at the minute, Sean? Do you think, last couple of fights he hasn't seemed very motivated to me? He's going to have to be for this one, though.
Yeah, and I think to get his career back on track, he's going to have to put in a good performance as well if he wants to be in the mix with the world title belts if they become fragmented later in the year. So I think Hergovich needs to be on his A game. I think we'll probably see a better performance of him against Adelaide than we have recently. And as I said, I think just experience will be enough for him in this fight. But having said that, I think Adam Booth's a good test of character who he picked. So I don't think he would have picked Hergovich if he didn't have full confidence in Adelaide. So I am intrigued in that aspect as well.
Yeah, Adam Booth's gone on record as saying the reason why they took Ergovic over Jamie TKV is because this fight puts Adelaide into the world title fringe, and the Jamie TKV wouldn't have done much for his career, which is a fair point, to be honest. People are talking of Ergovic as being the boogeyman of the division. If you go back 2 years ago, 3 years ago, no one wanted him, did they?
Yeah, I think why he got that label was multiple reasons really. I think he's not the best English speaker. I think that hasn't helped him. So
Yeah.
promotionally wise, I don't think people have sort of been buying into his fights for that reason. He's not particularly a charismatic character or anything. So I think that's why he probably was in the Who Needs Him club at that point.
Yeah, yeah. So interesting. So, what's your prediction for this one then, Sean? You mentioned that you think Ergovic is going to take it. How does he take it?
I don't think he's the biggest of punches, Hergovich, so I think he'll win on points.
Yeah. Okay. I'm leaning towards Adelaide. I think this might be a career-defining fight. I think he's got limitations to his boxing. Don't get me wrong, but I think Ergovic is on the slide. So I think timing's everything. So I'll go for Adelaide to beat him on points. Next one, I've got a vested interest in the next one. So Anto Kikachi versus Raymond Ford, which is a very, very intriguing fight because obviously Raymond Ford went in against Nick Ball and probably gave him the fight of his career. Really, I thought it was a very, very close fight I did against Raymond Ford. But Kikachi keeps proving everyone wrong, right? So he's got his hands full in this fight, though. He's got his hands full. So give us your thoughts about this one, Sean.
Yeah, it's a really good fight. One I'm looking forward to, as you say, with Kakachi. a bit like Lee Rook, really. Everyone writes him off and don't give him much of a chance, but then he proves people wrong time and time again. Be interesting to see Ray Ford, because I know, as you mentioned, he had that fight with Nick Ball. I think he's had one since. I always get this sort of perception with Ray Ford is there's a fighter waiting to come out, but we just
Yeah,
haven't seen it yet.
yeah.
So I
He
think,
flatters to deceive, Sean, don't he? He flatters to deceive.
yeah. Yeah, so I think it's a big stage for both of them, but I think Ray Ford will just come through on points.
Yeah, people shoot me down for this, but I think if Ray Ford was to jump in with Nick Ball next time and he's on he's firing on all cylinders, I can see Ray Ford beating Nick Ball if it ever happens.
Yeah, I would agree with that. Yeah,
So I'm going to go for Ray Ford to beat Kakachi. I think this could be. I like Kakachi, don't get me wrong, but again, he's got that come forward style kind of boxing. I think Ray Ford's going to pick him up all night. So I'm going to go for a wide points decision. I don't think Ford will be there for Kakachi to it. I think he'll be missing all night. So that's my prediction for that one. I think Ray Ford on points.
Yeah, I would agree with you on that one.
Then coming to the next one, I'm a little bit disappointed in this one. So you got Nick Ball versus Sam Goodman, Australian fighter. They're trying to do the big sell on this one to start suggesting it's a close fight. But for me, Sam Goodman is absolutely tailor-made for Nick Ball. Absolutely tailor-made. Don't move his head much. Comes forward with his, come forward fighter. Nick Ball ain't gonna have to look for him. So I'll jump in first this time. I think Nick Ball's going to finish Sam Goodman in 7 rounds.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's a perfect opponent for Nick Ball if he was to pick one. I don't think Goodman's that good, to be honest. I think he fought Inoue, didn't he? And that's how he got his name out there. But no, I agree. I think Nick Ball stops him probably in the second half of the fight as well.
Do you think Nick Ball would get that Inoue fight?
I think they're chasing it clearly, but I don't see what Frank Warren's on when he thinks he says that Nick Ball beats Inoue. I just don't see that at all. It'll be a big fight for him over in Japan. I think he probably will later on in this year. I think probably December time. I can see that happening.
Do you not think Uncle Turkey will bring it over to Sada?
I don't know. I think Inoue's that big a draw in Japan, and he creates that much money over there. I think it'll be hard to prize him away, to be honest.
Interesting. Because Nick Ball will travel. There's no chance of getting him over in the UK, let's put it that way, Zeb. So it's either going to be Saudi Arabia or Japan. So, yeah, fingers crossed for that one. Okay, top of the shop then. Dillian Whyte versus Moses Itauma. This is a very intriguing fight, this is, because I think we're going to learn a lot about Moses in this fight, because I think Dillian Whyte is going to ask him questions that nobody else has. There's a reason why Dillian Whyte probably took this fight. It puts him back in the shop window. Does he think Moses isn't as good as people are hyping him up to be? We're going to find out. 37 now, though, Dillian is. So this is his last go on the merry-go-round, really, isn't it? If he's wanting to get anywhere near another AJ fight or something. So give us your thoughts. Do you think it's just another blast-out job for Moses, or do you think Dillian's actually going to ask him a few questions?
Yeah, like you said there, Carl, I think he'll ask him a few questions. One thing that I'm a bit perplexed about, really, is I don't think they got too much faith in Dillian because obviously he was supposed to fight on the Fabio Wardley card.
Yeah.
And I think they pulled him out of fear of losing because they knew that they had the Itauma fight sort of sewing up in the future. So that doesn't fill me with a great deal of confidence, really, that White's got too much left. And as you say, 37, he's definitely towards the back echelons of his career. I think it's a smart matchup. I can see why they've done it. In the boxing world, obviously, us fans, we know all about Itauma, but maybe he's not a household name yet, whereas obviously Dillian is. So to the casuals, Itauma beating Dillian Whyte will be a sort of big story, as it were. So yeah, it's an interesting fight from that perspective. I think it will go a few rounds. I think Itauma will get to him around sort of 6 or 7.
Adam Smith suggesting that Itauma might have bit off a little bit more than he can chew it. And I can kind of see that scenario in some instances because you don't know what you don't know, right? Nobody's dragged Moses anywhere near them deep waters yet. And he hasn't took one on the chin yet. So there is a few questions. If Dillian was to land one of them over and right onto his chin, who knows what happens, Sean?
Yeah, that's the intriguing thing about the fight as well. I mean, you would anticipate that he'll be able to take a punch, but you just don't know. That's why we love this sport. But I think obviously he's got Ben Davison and Lee Wiley behind him and all those guys, so they're not stupid. I don't think they would have took the Dillian Whyte fight if they didn't think Itauma was ready, or if they didn't think Itauma would beat him.
I do feel for Moses a little bit though, because you got his fight fans saying we're sick of seeing him in with rollovers. But the concern I've got is once you do get up to the levels of Dillian Whyte, etc., you can't turn back. So if he beats Dillian Whyte, like we think the percentages probably say he will, you're in some serious competition. Then he's only 20, so you're up there. You can't really start reverting back to Dave Allen, I don't know, Adelaide, Fraser Clark. He can't really turn back to that level. So from a matchmaking perspective, if they kind of took the reins off, haven't they, Sean? Because there's no turning back really after this fight.
Yeah, as you say, once you're at this level, there's no going back, and there is still some really good fights for him at the Dillian Whyte level if he comes through. I mean, it's again not be a big step up, but someone like an Andy Ruiz would be a good fight for him after potentially to get on the experience. I mean, he's a durable guy. I think an opponent like that could be a future fight, but I always got the impression that he was in a bit of a rush anyway, because he obviously wanted to break the Mike Tyson record. Well, that's gone now.
Yeah.
So they could sort of build him properly, as it were. But I guess it is sink or swim for him if he comes through, and we'll see if he can do the business.
Yeah, the last point for me is not too far from the realms of possibility that Dillian Whyte old man's him in this fight.
Yeah, but yeah, the thing I worry about with Dillian is he's a bit slow, isn't he? And I think the sharpness and the explosiveness of Itauma, I just think that will be too much. I mean, we've seen Dillian go when he's been hit on the chin by a few guys now, and at 37, if he isn't motivated, I mean, he keeps chopping in, changing trainers as well, so that's a worry. He never seems to have a settled team.
Yeah.
I just think that this is his probably swan song, as it were, over in Saudi. He's getting paid a fair amount of money, so I wouldn't be surprised if this turns out being his last fight, to be honest.
And one thing for sure, he can't perform like he did against Tete in Gibraltar, because it will be an early night if he performs like that.
Yeah, definitely not. Yeah.
But I'm hoping it's a motivated Dillian Whyte. This is a bit of a cup final for Dillian Whyte. So he should really put everything into that camp, whatever he's got left. And then we'll find out on fight night.
Absolutely.
Okay, agree or disagree, watching this back on video, on YouTube, on socials, post your comments below. We always respond to the comments. Like, comment, subscribe. This has been Last World Boxing, proudly sponsored by LW Liftings and FC Travel. Catch you on the next video. Thank you.